Welcome to Damsels in Dialogue, a podcast dedicated to female protagonists in fiction, film, and the stage. Co-hosted by India Marie Paul
and Katie Zutter. Here at Damsels in Dialogue, we support the LGBTQ+ community and all women because trans women are women.
For our second season, we have wands at the ready and we'll be discussing the women of the wizarding world. This episode, we are talking about the Evans sisters along with one of Hogwarts' biggest protectors, Minerva McGonagall.
All right. As we continue with our podcast, we totally understand that talking about the wizarding world would encourage you to love to get involved and get your own wizarding world things. So we would encourage you to get some magical merch from these small businesses that we have been working with this whole season. And this week's sponsor is Ryan Orion. So Ryan Orion makes stunning wands and they are a big variety of wands. Some of them are wooden, some of them are polymer clay, painted, carved, all sorts of things. Each one is different. They're all unique. And he makes a point that he will not remake a wand that he has made before. That's awesome. Which I think is very cool because it should be, you know, to each their own.
Yeah.
Very interesting. For those listening to the podcast, you will not be able to see this, but I do have one of the wands that he had made me. And I love it.
You're going to have to take a beautiful picture of it.
I will.
And put it up on all the platforms.
Yeah. Now you can find Ryan Orion on all the social medias on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. It's Ryan Orion _. And then the shop where you can get these beautiful wands is ryanorion.square.site /. And they launch new wands every Friday and they go very quick. So keep that in mind. So I know our sponsor is a wand maker, but we are actually going to start with a character who doesn't even know wands exist.
Yeah, unlike the other fun mini character we did, this one I really despise. So it's an interesting foil for ourselves to have started the Molly Weasley and Delacour episode with Muriel. And here we have Marge Dursley, who is technically the aunt of Dudley, not really the aunt of Harry.
It's Vernon's sister. Yeah.
Yeah.
And very much presents herself as Vernon's sister.
Yeah, like she's described as looking exactly like him, but female version. Like, it was
mustache and all.
Mustache,
just like
and
a lighter
face.
mustache.
I was like, okay. She is only in book 3. She lives in the country with a large garden and breeds bulldogs.
She does, though. She is mentioned in 2 other books as well. She is mentioned when Harry is taken in and for his trial. They use that as an excuse of, oh, look, you've used magic all these times. You blew up your aunt. You did all these things. So like, we're going to get you. And Dumbledore's like, that's not how this works.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but they do establish her in book 1 as a close relative. In book 1, we have not met her yet. And we already know that she hates Harry.
Yep.
We already she sends postcards for these travels that she goes on. That was a funny thing. They did add that bit into the movies. Something that was interesting with her is that she has almost nothing cut from the movies. Most of the characters have a little bit cut from the movies. Of all the characters to be like, no, I want all of these to serve. I need all these moments to make it.
Yeah. That's
for
fascinating.
Like Marge Dursley to be almost entirely from the book.
Yeah. Of all the ones that we got, I did not need all of Marge Dursley. The more I'm thinking about it, the more it is interesting to compare because Aunt Muriel and her really are kind of a foils of 2 different worlds. And they both are very judgy, but Marge is disgusting and Muriel is funny. I don't know how they both are really judgy, but Marge Marge believes in like punishment of children very specifically, so that probably shot her over to like, okay, you're not drunk and funny, you're drunk and evil.
I get hit loads of times.
It's like, okay. Ooh,
gosh. Yeah. She has this weird sense of control over the family, which Muriel does as well, where she knows Petunia. She knows how Petunia is. She's been coming over for years, and yet she still has this sense of, oh, I don't need to warn her I'm coming. I can just show up in like a day. Which like for Petunia is like the worst thing you could do. Like she wants it to be perfect. So that's super stressful. And I didn't understand that. And then she continues that through the entire interaction with her. She just seems to have this like really strong sense of control. And you see that in Vernon a little bit.
Yeah.
Where Vernon versus Petunia, how they handle Harry. But she's like on another level of that, like, I am the most important person in the room.
Definitely.
And you'll just do what I want because I said.
Yeah, like there's no question of whether or not she'll be listened to. It's that she is listened to. She gives her advice of how they should be raising Harry. She has this horrid line of, there's something wrong with the bitch, there'll be something wrong with the pup, that ends up pushing Harry over. So we get the famous...
Directly put in the movie.
Yes.
And she was looking for a fight in that moment. Yeah. She was absolutely looking for a fight. And the one thing they did a little different in the movie, the very slight difference is that she does that and he basically blows her up like a balloon. Yeah. But that's not what causes him to blow up in the book.
Yes. Yeah. There's like a couple, she gets drunk.
She's already had like a couple bottles of wine by dinner.
And maybe she's always drunk.
Brandy. Yeah. So yeah. I literally have, the family had several bottles of wine, which is like my note. And then my commentary on the note was, are you trying to drown your family, Vernon? And then they switched to him to Brandy. Excuse you? And then when she asks for a spot of Brandy, this is like after dinner. She asks for more Brandy, which she gets a huge cup. And I'm literally like, your liver begs now.
Yeah,
like,
please
begs
don't.
now, Marge.
Please don't do it anymore. That's right. The pup line breaks the glass unintentionally.
Is at dinner, which of course she doesn't notice. Which cracks me up. That's like a whole other thing to unpack. Like, how many glasses have you broken, ma'am? That this is
that
like,
you're like, oh, I'm just so strong.
Off.
Common occurrence, you know.
Casual. And she's like super like, yes, me. I am strength.
Oh, God. Yeah, she's a treat. She's a trip. Not a treat. She's a trip. That one.
Yeah. When she is drunk, and it doesn't seem like, I mean, Vernon's drinking with her, but like Petunia, I'm sure she had a couple glasses, but she's a stressed housewife trying to make sure everything's great. The sister-in-law broke a glass and she's like, Harry, stop it. And like trying to like figure, you know, so I can't imagine her being that much a part of the drinking. So you can only assume that like Marge and Vernon are the ones doing like drinking all of this alcohol. And so for her to be like, I mean, like, I like you, Petunia. And I'm sure your family was fine, but it's just Lily's a bad egg. I'm sure they were drunk when they got in the car crash. Oh, and that was what sent him over the edge. Like, and I'm just like, Rich, coming from you, like you're literally wasted right now.
Oh, yeah.
Just, and I get it. Things could have been worse. Yeah. She's obviously not nice, but she is like the worst part of Vernon heightened. Yeah. Which it's also interesting. She pays for Dudley's affections. Yeah. Like she could just be the aunt and just get it. She's literally his only living relative. Yeah. She has to compete with no one to be the favorite relative. And she still feels like she needs to pay him for hugs and things. She like makes sure he wins games and like hits Harry and like and stuff. Just is so interesting to me. It's just that sense of control, that like dominance. And I don't know if that's why she was also given a pack of dogs to wrangle.
Yeah, it makes sense that she wants to
exemplify that.
Yeah, competitive. It feels like she probably goes and shows them or is like competing to have the best bred dogs. And it probably plays into maybe they were drinking so much because both of them were trying to drink more than the other. Like maybe we got some like sibling conflict happening between the two of them. Because I can't imagine growing up with those two. So
I don't know. Yikes. I can't even imagine what the rest of his family was like.
Yeah. What are the parents like if this is what we got?
Who knows?
Maybe they're like the sweetest people ever. Like maybe it's like the exact opposite.
They're actually secretly wizards who have obliviated their children's memories and they have left because they cannot stand them. New headcanon, you heard it here first.
Yes,
you're welcome.
The fanfic will be out next fall. Of the Dursley family.
And one more thing, which is my biggest WTF moment. Okay. And no, Marge says a lot of things that you're just like, did you think about that? But my absolute favorite one to question is when Petunia asks what Ripper will take. Ripper the dog. And now there's a couple things to unpack about that statement. First of all, Marge has said enough times that the dog will be drinking things that are not normal dog things, like water. Petunia is ready to ask the question.
Yes.
I'm concerned for him now.
Yeah. Oh, I'm very concerned for all of her dogs, to be fair. I'm very concerned for her entire group of dogs.
Oh goodness.
Yep.
She does, despite all of the like nagging and controlling, she does occasionally compliment Petunia.
Every once in a while.
I'm not sure what that is. I don't know if that's just her being like, yes, this is my in-law.
Yeah.
Or if it's genuine or not.
I could see her liking Petunia. I mean, Petunia tries to keep everything perfect and doesn't really question what she thinks or says. So I don't know why she would hate her.
Together.
Yeah.
Speaking of Petunia, shall we?
Yes. Shall
we head to the Evans? Marge would have very disliked the beginning of Petunia's life, but later.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting pair, these sisters, the Evans sisters, because we never see them together in the books as adults. We only get flashbacks from Snape's memory of what he sees of them. So we're also seeing it through his lens. So we kind of have to play a little bit of detective and put things together to talk about what their childhood was like and surmise what that relationship did to who Petunia becomes and who she marries.
Yeah, we don't get a lot about them. And in their younger years, when you see through Snape's eyes, they're two sisters. They're very, very close in age. I will say, when you try to pin down Petunia's age, you can't. There is no official birth date. It's always older than her. And the movies don't help. Like, nothing helps to see visually.
Yeah.
But they were fairly close in age, regardless of that. And you do see them in Snape's flashbacks together as kids without the parents. So at one point, they had a typical, and I would say when Snape sees them, it's a pretty standard like sisterly or sibling relationship when they're young and they're just, you pick on your siblings, you tease them for things, like her calling them freaks is like not surprising to me. As
it doesn't
like
seem
kids.
particularly, there's not a lot of animosity that I feel at that point in their relationship. It feels like they probably grew up pretty close, or at least they didn't hate each other their entire lives growing up. It's when the magic starts coming that the tension begins.
Right. And that's where,
which is really
that's where
sad.
Everything starts and where everything finishes.
Yeah. It's really sad when you start thinking about what that must have been like for Petunia to grow up with a sister who all of a sudden becomes so incredibly special and secretively special and not having any way to be a part of that anymore. That she's going to start having a life away from you and outside of you, and now getting all this attention from your parents on something that you can't help at all. Like, it's just who she is.
There is very little in the books mentioned how they handle muggle porns. That seems like a massive flaw in the way the school works. But going off of Hermione's parents, they never stepped foot in Hogwarts.
Yeah.
They barely entered that alley.
Yeah, they're just confused in there.
They walk
like
3 feet and poor Arthur Weasley's like, look, muggles.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, this gotta be terrifying.
It's like, I can't imagine the poor Evans. Like, they were proud of her, obviously, because that's brought up a lot of times by Petunia herself. Very proud of Lily. And there's not much said about her strengths and her skills and what she's ever done. We don't know what she would have wanted to be before she desperately wanted to be a normal, perfect housewife. We don't know who that girl was.
Yeah. And being the older sibling, then to be overshadowed completely by your younger sister for like nothing that she's done wrong, for not even for just a chance of her being magical. That's got to have some trauma. And you see it. You see the trauma of the aftermath.
Oh my gosh.
Of everything.
It comes out literally immediately when you meet her.
Yeah.
For a character, Petunia is so cool because she is very much a side character. But I would argue that she's one of the most complex characters in the novels.
I could see that, yeah.
Like, her and Snape both have really big things to unpack.
Yeah.
Yeah. For her being a side character to have such a big thing to unpack, I think is so interesting. It's crazy because they don't even let her look like Lily. They look so different.
Yeah.
She is, Lily is green-eyed and red hair and Petunia is blonde and like too tall and too skinny. And in book 1, she has a blow up, which I think was something that she really needed. And I don't think she ever got a chance to do, because I don't see her and Vernon's relationship as, let me just talk about my sister. I imagine, and this is all opinion, like, because we don't see this, but it doesn't seem like, because Vernon was also shocked by Petunia talking about that. So it seems like obviously Vernon knows that she has a sister, weird wizard stuff, hate that, ignore it, move on. Like, so when she has that blow up, can you imagine how much trauma she could have overcome if she had had this blow up literally 11 years earlier. Because she talks about things when they were kids. She talks about how Lily would come home with like pockets of frog spawn and everything from school. And then later in life, when she started coming home and seventh year, when she tells them, oh, I'm dating this boy I found.
Yep.
And like Petunia their life together was so short because Lily dies at 21. Their parents die before that of a mysterious unknown. They're just dead.
They're dead. Yeah. Immediately. Yeah.
So you have a 21-year-old and a young 20-something. She leaves and goes to school. You only see her a couple months out of the whole year, and she comes home with frog spawn. And then the last year she like comes home with a boy. And I don't know, it just seems like the instant she started showing magic, which interesting enough was sought by Snape first and not the school, which is nice because maybe that lessened the blow on the Evans. Yeah. That Lily kind of was like aware already.
Yeah, she wasn't as shocked when she got the letter to show her parents and
Right. Because Snape had already kind of like, Severus had like eased her into it. But I can't even imagine half of Petunia's very short life with Lily. She struggled with, and she was not even an adult.
Because
like the poor thing.
Yeah, because Lily died so young, you never got the chance to eventually try and reconcile. Like it was going to take maybe never, but there was potential that one day you'd want to meet Harry. That one day you'd want like to try a Christmas together. And I think she sought out Vernon very specifically for who he was. Because she wanted
met him at work and went, this guy is so normal. Yeah. He is so normal at this job of drill bits. Yes. Yeah. I love a normal guy.
And her spending her entire childhood feeling lesser than, whether or not the parents made her actually feel that or Lily did anything to cause it. It's just what happened. Like she felt lesser than, she felt overshadowed. She just wanted, and that's, it goes directly into her need for everything to be perfect. It goes directly into how she treats her son, that he's the most precious thing in the world to her and can do no wrong, because it feels like that's exactly what she wished she felt.
And that she only has one child.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, she doesn't have any other kids. Dudley older than Harry by a couple months. She feasibly could have had another child before Harry was dropped at their doorstep, or could have been pregnant, or could have been planning another child. Yeah. They had the room for it in the house. Yeah. But they chose to have just Duddykins.
Yes, just Duddykins.
Because I think you're right. For that very reason, she did not want her child to go through what she went through. Some of that trauma was self-inflicted, but how could she know if she never got a chance to speak about it? How, like this all could have been avoided had someone just like talked to her, or she'd gone to therapy, or but
some therapy, maybe Harry would not have been neglected as horribly as he was by the family. If she had just like worked through her own sibling issues instead of having to see Harry and being reminded of that what she like shuts up in a box for her entire life. Really, she just needs some therapy.
It's the poor thing.
She treats Harry horribly. Like what they do to him is not forgivable. But trauma that she went through as a kid, I think, is something you don't get to discuss in the books, but that when you start unpacking it is fascinating.
It's very real. You see that she does treat Harry very different than how Vernon treats Harry. Vernon is very much, you can control it. Stop it. No funny business. Don't mess things up, you know, even from an early age, because he knows and he's just not telling Harry in like the weirdest way possible. Whereas Petunia, more often than not, she handles it differently before Harry finds out and after Harry finds out. Yeah. Whereas Vernon just like continues much of the same of just like, stop it. Just like, don't do it. Okay, Vernon. But prior to it, she very much acknowledges that it can't possibly be his fault. And it makes sense because she grew up with, Lily knew early she had magic, but she was still doing things that she couldn't control, as most young kids do before they go to Hogwarts. Yeah. So she has probably seen Lily do weird things that she couldn't. So there's a lot of times where she just explains away. She redirects and explains away what happened. For example, the sweater that she's like forcing over Harry's head to wear. And she's like, oh no, it must have just shrunk in the dryer. Like, no, you literally in this moment saw it shrink. But instead of just being like, cut it out like Vernon does, she's like redirecting,
Yeah.
explaining it in a very muggle way.
Yeah, she's very much trying to avoid the acceptance that magic still exists in the world.
Yeah. But I think that's on purpose. She's explaining it in a muggle way because she does not want Harry to know.
Yeah.
You know, they're like hoping that it'll just stop.
Yeah, right? Because that's how that works.
Yeah, she continues that kind of stuff later.
Mm-hmm.
She is very good about understanding how to use muggle ways to explain away magic because she's had to her whole life.
Yeah.
And it leads to her handling Harry better.
Yeah.
He doesn't like her either, but there's definitely less of a physical abuse and like verbal abuse from Petunia. It's more from Vernon, and she's a little more just like neglectful in general.
Yeah, just literally tries to ignore him. And we get a little bit of, there is some canon writing about Petunia pre-novels, and we understand
this is from, just to clarify, because there's been a couple different times that canon has been dropped. Yeah. So this was when it was originally Pottermore, and now it's Wizarding World, just so you know the era of when this came out.
Yeah. So there's been a couple articles. There's one about Petunia and Vernon Dursley, and specifically it talks about her leaving Cokeworth, where they grew up, and pursuing a typing course in London, and that's where she met Vernon. He's described as extremely unmagical, opinionated, and materialistic. I was like, yes, that's what you wanted. You get a little bit of background on the first time that Lily and James met Vernon and Petunia, and it did not go well at all.
No.
Ended up with the Dursleys storming out of the restaurant and Lily bursting into tears.
And this all happened within like a year.
Yeah, it was very,
of them Lily and James started dating because they had not seen each other for years. Yeah. So this was like, she graduated, went to this restaurant, be like, look at this boy I brought. Parents are gone. Parents are dead.
Yeah.
It goes poorly. One of the, if not the last time.
Yeah. Because
they ever see each other.
This is
because it's years later that they don't see each other.
Yeah, because they are invited, and I think they go to the wedding of Petunia and Vernon. I think they go, but Lily's not a bridesmaid. And then Petunia and Vernon do not go to Lily's wedding and do not meet Harry when he is born.
No, because it's literally by the time book one starts, they have not seen each other for years.
Yeah.
Which I know I keep saying that, but that is a long time between 18 and 21.
Mm-hmm.
That is 3 years. And if several years you haven't seen them, that means the wedding and the horrible dinner date 3 years ago, and then you did not see them again.
Yeah, that's why I feel like eventually maybe there would have been a time where they could have tried if they'd wanted to, or if either of them had tried.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But
when they're older, but when they were so young. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's so many things that like poor Petunia has like shoved into her past. But before we continue on her, since we are talking about more of Lily's passing, we're not getting to the point where she's no longer alive in their relationship. In the books, we get a little bit of Lily. She befriends Snape.
Called him Sev.
First ever magical friend. Like, like very sweet. Just friends, just kids. You understand why she was interested in him as a friend. Yeah. He lives nearby. He also understands magic. His whole family's from magic. So that must have been so cool for her. Yeah. Can you imagine her going over on like play dates?
Yeah,
or,
go have dinner in the magical household.
Yeah, like do your summer homework at a magical household. Yeah. Like that would be so cool. Yeah. So I totally understand that energy from her and why they were friends. We do see throughout other flashbacks of Snape where she really thinks that James has a big head, and he does.
Yes,
James is not great. James is a bully. Yep. So he's like desperately trying to get her to go out with him, and she's like, no. Yep. You learn from like all of these other teachers how great she was at charms and potions and things. She was a student. She was funny. Really, Slughorn's the one who has the most to say about her, which I think is very interesting because Slughorn knows legitimately famous people, like legitimate famous people. And yet he still continues to, any chance he gets, tell Harry she was great.
Yeah, that was like one of his
like
favorites.
He gets to share that, for Slughorn to feel that kind of like safety of like, oh, I get to talk about one of my favorite people again with somebody who matters to her, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
and she ends up being
a big thing to put on somebody.
Yeah. And it's because of his love of her as a student that he ends up getting guilt tripped after, like it's because of her.
Be brave like Lily.
Yeah. So it's her memory that pushes him into actually giving Harry the memory that they need. Yeah. Yeah, that's a big deal.
So, yeah. Right. So
I know he had the luck. I know he had the luck potion, but still, like it was
still.
Yeah.
It makes her a great person from what we learn about her. Not a big fan of how they just didn't continue to try making this relationship, because you'd think if you had nobody else, James doesn't have any other family either.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, they do have their big found family. It's just interesting to me from the book standpoint, because she doesn't have anything else. So it's interesting. Like that's the one flaw in her that I'm like, why wouldn't you try harder than just 3 years of no communication, a couple years of no communication?
Or that at some point while you're going to school, like writing her letters or trying to make the connection.
Right.
With Petunia instead of growing farther and farther apart.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then clinging then to this guy who somehow 7th year loses his big head, but still lies to her and still heavily bullies Severus.
Yeah, that bothers me.
Behind her back. And she's like, I understand the loss of friendship between Lily and Severus.
Yes.
I get it. I understand when he turns on her and calls her a mudblood. And then she finds out later he is really interested in Voldemort and the Death Eaters. Like I get that sense of betrayal.
Yeah.
Because she has been standing up for him for so long.
Yeah.
But I never quite understood how James, and maybe because we don't get enough of him in the books and we only get the romanticized versions of what Sirius and Lupin
that's true.
tell us, but I never totally understood how James finally got the girl.
I never, never tracked for me. Maybe people grow up, people see that they're not good people, but there never seemed to be a moment from what we learned from everyone else of reconciliation with Snape.
He told Lily that he'd stop bullying him, which is why he continued to bully him behind her back so she would never find out, so he could keep dating her.
Ugh.
It bothers me that James still got head boy. It makes sense that Lily would be head girl.
Yes.
People look up to her. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
She canonically has friends in other houses that she hangs out with on a regular basis. That's also brand new.
Yeah. Yeah, that's nice. I feel Lily was good for James, but James was not necessarily good for Lily.
No. James needed someone like Lily to kick his butt.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like it was a little one-sided in who needed who situation going on.
Yeah. So. And that was basically her school year. And that's all we really get from her outside of the end of her passing, which is where we are at with Petunia and talking about their relationship. Yes. And that's the moment that starts and ends the whole series is the sacrifice of a mother, which is beautiful. It is a very, very powerful moment.
It's laid out in Harry Potter's visions exactly what happens where James is dead. Voldemort comes in, tells her to get out of the way because she doesn't need to die, her refusing to, and then dying, which is super powerful. And I do like how it's slowly revealed to us exactly what happens to her.
Yes. And something too about this is neither of them had wands at the time when they were killed, because it was just a casual day. Yeah. They're in a new house. Yeah. They only have a baby in them.
Yeah.
It was just a chill night at home.
You get that they have visited. From the letter she writes Sirius, you get a little hint of they had a cat. Harry breaks a vase.
I have big headcanon for the cat later too.
Oh, okay. So you got that they have a cat, which is fun. And you get that she has tea with Mathilda a lot and that Mathilda does. So you get a little bit of a glimpse of pre-death with that letter to Sirius, which is really cool.
With her new life with James, officially leaving the Muggle world forever. Yeah. Before we continue back and finish up Petunia, Lily, just in the movies, in the books versus the movies, I thought she was the same. They did a great job with, they did decide to move over. Obviously, it wasn't a whole ton. Yeah. But it was still Lily, and it felt very Lily to me. I'm not sure if it felt like that to you as well.
Yes.
But the only qualm that I have with it is I think the actors cast to play those roles were far too old.
Yeah, because they're supposed to be 21.
Yes, they're supposed to be 21. And that's what makes it more tragic, is that they are almost children.
So when he first sees them in the mirror, it looked like what they would look like today for Harry.
Yes,
not
correct.
what baby Harry would have known. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that would have been a lot more impactful to see young.
Wouldn't that?
Especially when they come back spectrally for Harry in that last moment.
The fourth.
They would have looked very similar in age.
When he in the very back book, or in the last book.
Yeah, they would look very similar in age.
Only a couple of years apart.
Yeah.
They would have been just 4 years apart. And that's, right?
Yeah.
And we miss that. We miss that because they were older.
Yeah.
There was one thing in the 6th movie that they did that I thought was beautiful. And a lot of the fandom really enjoys this moment too. And it is not in the books. Slughorn tells Harry the story of a very brilliant student who was good at charms, who gave him one of the most beautiful gifts he has ever received. And it was a globe with a fish, magically enchanted. It never needed to be fed. It never needed to be done. It just swam around. It's a very powerful charm to get that to work. And the fish disappeared that Halloween that Lily died. And that is when you find out that Lily is the one who made that.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Because she passed the magic, disappeared. But it is beautiful. And it's a beautiful combination of her brilliant charm work with her relationships with others. Like if you are important to her, then she cares for you a lot. Yeah. And I thought that was a really beautiful addition to the movie.
And it showed that she also loved Slughorn as a teacher. Because she wouldn't have just done this really intricate thing for everyone.
It shows her, shows her relationships that if you're on her side, she's there for you.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that.
Moving on to poor Petunia's later life.
Yeah. Man, she gets a rude break into, I wrote so many times in these books where people enter and magic is forced in her life again that she screams every time. All the trauma just coming back full force when the Weasleys bust in. When they had to go get a surgeon for Dudley to get the tail off. No one cleaned that up.
There's things she suppressed. And then there's other things that she just doesn't know. Because they explicitly say Muggle houses can't be set up to the Flu Network. Yeah. It's quite possible that their house never could be. The Evans house was never.
Yeah, that's true.
So she has literally never seen anyone come by Flu Powder, Just
break into her beautiful house.
My gosh, the poor thing.
Yeah.
And there's something she does know, like when she word vomits Azkaban. And there's other moments as well that she surprisingly knows things.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the moment of after Dudley gets attacked because it seemed like Petunia understood just how serious it was. Yes. And that was important. I think it was important for her to understand just how in danger her only child was and how I can't imagine seeing in the movies when Dudley comes back after being attacked, it almost looks comedic. But in all honesty, I think it would have been absolutely terrifying to see him after that attack of the Dementors.
Absolutely. Yeah. And she doesn't blame Harry when he comes back. Yeah. She tells him to shut up so she can listen to what Dudley's saying. But but she doesn't Vernon is immediately what did you do to him?
Yeah. Her knowing that was convenient, but also very important for that moment to take place. So she knew the seriousness of it and the danger that Dudley was in.
And something really cool about that moment, which goes back to something that I had said earlier, is that she ties in the Muggle stuff again. Yeah. She explains away after this terrible howler. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Shocks all of them. She perfectly, muggly explains to Vernon why Harry needs to stay. Yeah. Doesn't explain the letter. Just goes, this is the Muggle reason. What will the neighbors think?
Yeah. She very specifically is no, he's staying.
It doesn't, and explains it in a Muggle way, and then moves on. Yeah. And everyone is shocked and doesn't bring it up again because Vernon doesn't want to because he pretends it doesn't exist. Yeah.
And she knows who Dumbledore is. Yeah. This is her third letter from Dumbledore because he had one when she was a kid when she asked to go to school, which is tragic. When she begs to go to Hogwarts to be with her sister, and then the letter that Harry gets dropped off with, and then this howler. So
that's the final one.
Yeah. And then Dumbledore comes. Yeah. So then she gets to meet him face to face. So, yeah, there's a lot of...
Doesn't like them. Sits there quiet and still wants Dudley to be more important. Yep. And I think it's important that the school finally reached out to her because she had at that point thought and it's almost sad when you think about it, how much she thinks she is being the perfect and wonderful mom and giving him this life that she always wanted. And then to find out that he is incredibly unhealthy.
I thought that was fascinating.
The school is you need to do this. And that's the one thing she can't explain away. She can explain everything else away. Yeah. She cannot explain why he weighs so much. And be oh, it's fine. You can't. It's a health issue. Yeah. And I think that was a very important lesson for her. She still didn't handle it very well. And I still don't think they learned from that because then later Dumbledore says the same thing. He's you have done a travesty to both of your wards. Yeah. And they can't believe it. Yeah. They still can't believe that you know, because she's just raising him how she was raised, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I like that.
So a romantic version of it.
Yeah. In book 4 is when she starts putting everyone on a diet. And I think it's really interesting that she's like, if Dudley's going to suffer, we're all going to suffer. So everyone has to go on the diet. And
it's fair. It's more fair to Dudley.
Yeah.
You don't do one or the other like they did with Lily.
Yeah. That's it. It's really interesting that everyone has to go and that she keeps Vernon on it.
She still gives Dudley, you know, more than everybody else. So she's not like super learning.
No, but it was interesting that she did take the criticism of Dudley, and because she couldn't explain it away, did something about it.
But they put it on everybody.
They put it on everyone.
She put it on everybody.
Yep.
So is it really?
Oh, she didn't learn anything. No. Yep. And then in book 7, we have the moment of her leaving. That is so powerful.
Now that is something that I did want to mention.
Yeah.
So in the books, she thinks about saying something and then doesn't, and then leaves. And that is so interesting because it's the question of what was she going to say? Yeah. And we never find out. We never find out. There is a scene that they filmed, but then cut from the movie because they wanted to, like, they're like, we don't know how
let's explore this. Yeah.
And for time. But there was a written scene that was filmed, and you can find it if you look it up, of her doing the same thing. It's like her left alone and it's super awkward. And before she leaves, she says, "You didn't just lose a mother that day. I lost a sister." And then she walks away.
I have heard that. Yeah.
They thought about it and they're like, maybe we shouldn't. So it still canonically leaves it. What was she going to say?
Yeah. I think that's a really good version of what she would say. I think that's a really cool take on it. I think by leaving it so open, it is more powerful. So I am happy that they left it as it was. And I think it was the right choice in the books too. I don't think she hasn't her entire life been able to push past trying to talk about it. So I don't think in that moment she would have either.
One thing we do get about her by the time Cursed Child came out is because apparently parents can't survive things unless you're the Weasleys.
Yep.
She passes before the events of the Cursed Child happened.
Okay.
Before she passes, she sends Harry a package, and it is the blanket that he was swaddled in.
Aww. That's cute.
He was left on the porch. And that is the last moments that we know of, and we hear about, rather.
Yeah.
Petunia Dursley.
That's a nice little kind of conclusion for her.
Now, there's a couple of headcanons, unless there were other.
No, I'm ready for the headcanons.
Okay. So there are some things that you can like pull together and then some headcanons. So one of the things that you can kind of pull together, which is so interesting, is if you look at the 3 gifts that the Dursleys ever gave to Harry for Christmas, they only send him 3 gifts, and it's in the first, second, and I think 4th year. They are a coin, a toothpick, and a tissue, a stone, a wand.
Let's say, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I like that.
So you really have to look at it, but like when you put them together, it's like, wow.
Yeah. Okay.
I dug deep for that moment.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And then also, this is funny to me. So I have not read Cursed Child, but I have been in the fandom for a while, and I know a lot about things with Cursed Child and with other stories and stuff that have been built within the universe. And I had to look this up because I was like, I so strongly believe this headcanon that I thought it was real. I literally went to my computer because I just had known it for so long. I'm like, oh, it's got to be real.
Yeah.
I'm sure, I'll just like Google Dudley's magical child's name. I'm pretty sure it's a daughter. And then looked it up and only found fanfic about it. I'm like, it's a headcanon that I just like really clung to. But yes, there's a very popular headcanon that Dudley Dursley had a magical child, typically a girl. That went to school and that they reconnected over this child. And I wonder what Petunia would have been like had that been real. How would she have treated a grandchild with magic?
I feel like it would have been traumatizing at first. But if she only had 1 grandchild instead of like 2, because she probably would have clung to the muggle one. But if she only had 1 that was magic, I feel like she finally would heal a little bit.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Wouldn't it have given her some healing? Because she could have come to terms and like, maybe she would have loved this kid. Yeah. Like she could never let herself love Lily. Yeah. Like there would have been so many things for her.
I want that for her. I want that canon for her. And I want that to be the only grandchild option she gets.
Because it's true. He has kids.
Yeah.
Like he gets married and has children. Like that's real. But literally it is such an ingrained,
Yeah.
like, this would be such a cool story
Yeah.
that I was like, oh, what's her? I can't remember her name. No, it's not. It's because it's not real. It's because it's not.
It's not real. It's not real.
It's a headcanon.
It's not canon.
So, but look at those fanfics. It's
Ooh,
cool.
okay.
It is a really cool, thought of, of Ludley Kings.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Now that we've talked about the headcanons
Mhm.
from Petunia,
Yes.
we should dive into the headcanons from Lily.
Oh, yes.
So,
Yes.
something that's very interesting about the Evans sisters,
Yeah.
Lily in particular, is Lily is not really given much
Mhm.
in the books. And it's a lot of repeating, she died for you.
Yes.
Something interesting is that the fandom, there are so many fanfics and headcanons about Marauders era.
Yeah.
And some things, particularly about Lily,
Mhm.
Lily and Marlene McKinnon were best friends. Now, Marlene
Yes.
McKinnon is mentioned. She is
Yes.
a passing name on the Order of the Phoenix that had died right around the same time.
Mhm.
And she did not survive the first Wizarding War.
Mhm.
And so they have taken that and run with it.
Mhm.
What Lily was like in school, running around with Marlene and the stuff that they got up to and having this like girl gang
Oh, I love that.
they also had and friendships.
Mhm.
You have a little bit of the other Marauders had their unique relationships with her as well, but they were still their unit of 4.
Yeah.
And they gave her own
I love that. That makes
friendship
sense.
and things.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
And you can find lots of fun things of her bringing Muggle things,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, to the world and showing them about that. And like they've built this whole backstory and life for her that is so interesting and so much deeper than we get in the books.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend you look up anything of that era, including her, because you will get everything you want.
Yeah. It's all there ready for you.
Yeah. We have done the Evans sisters. We have done Marjorie.
Yes.
And now I can't wait. This is one of my favorite characters.
Yes.
I know Minerva is just a fan fave.
Yeah, she was a favorite of mine from the actress who played her. As soon as I read the books, Minerva McGonagall. She grew up with a Muggle dad because we do have writing from Pottermore about Minerva. A pretty decently sized article writings of Minerva's life before the books, which is...
And this is the same thing as Petunia.
Yes.
Where it was written in the Pottermore era, not in the recent updates.
Yeah. And you can find it now on Wizarding World, which is where I looked it up. And Minerva just got the most tragic life for no reason. I was very upset when I read her backstory. She had a Muggle father and a witch mom.
And almost fell into that same trap.
Yeah. Fell in love with a Muggle and then
left him.
Left him because she didn't want
of how
the life.
terrible her mom was.
Yeah, her mom suppressed.
Just...
Her mom never told her father until Minerva started showing magic that she was a witch, and then there was like resentment about having to leave the Wizarding World from her mom and her dad, and there's a lot of tension from the lies. And she just didn't want that life, so she fell in love with someone, decided to leave them and not marry them.
Yeah.
Well, she says yes. She says yes as soon as he proposed, and then the next day,
and then goes to meet him and doesn't meet him.
And then she goes and works for the ministry for a while, which I thought was really cool, but doesn't really like it.
Makes sense for her.
Yeah, and reaches out to Hogwarts to try and see if there's a teaching job, because she doesn't want to be promoted in the ministry. She doesn't want to work there anymore. And
she does have the one boss that she likes.
Yes.
Who's nice to her.
Yes. Elphinstone Court.
Just to, we'll talk about him later. Just wanted to mention he's there.
Elphinstone
much older than her.
Yeah. It's her old ministry boss. Yeah. And Albus.
But anyway, yes.
Albus Dumbledore. Oh my God. I cannot talk.
Wow, that was good. That was a good one.
Albus Dumbledore was her transfiguration teacher and then offers her the job when he's the headmaster. And she reaches out to them, immediately goes. And then that's when she starts getting courted by her old ministry boss. Gets proposed to again.
Marries him.
Yep. After saying no. He tries for years.
Yeah.
She tries for years. She keeps
and then she's
no.
like, yeah. We'll go. We'll have a house in Hogsmeade together. It's going to be lovely. Just kidding. You're going to die shortly after the wedding.
Yeah,
it's fine.
She gets 3 years. I think it is 3 years of marriage bliss in the little cottage, living her best life, being a teacher, not having kids, having nieces and nephews that came to visit and things. Then he dies accidentally. Not even just an accident.
No, just like a natural causes, like older guy, just it happens.
No, it says
like what?
Accidental death
right back in school
from a venomous tentacula bite.
Oh yes,
You're
right.
It's an accident.
No. I know he's older than her, but oh my gosh, yeah, like what? So dumb.
Finally has a lovely life with someone she loves. Chooses to keep her own name, which is really cool because that's what she's known as. That's why we still have McGonagall. And then she's not able to bear living alone.
Is what you said?
A venomous tentacula bite.
That is a plant.
He dies of a plant bite?
Yeah. Sprout talks about him too.
That's just so sad. So he dies from a plant bite after 3 years of marriage with her. She can't bear to live alone anymore and moves back into Hogwarts. And that's where we meet her. Why such an intricate, full of tragedy bastory?
I have no idea.
Oh, gets hurt playing Quidditch. She was like a Quidditch player and then gets hurt.
She could have gone pro, but she was injured and stopped.
Just to add into that.
It is interesting though, because there is one thing that is cool about her in her history that we don't get from the books, which I think is really sweet. Yeah. So this is something you can find on Pottermore, same era as these other writings, but it's under the Sorting Hat. Ooh. There is something called a hat sit, where the hat, it takes a long time deciding. And two of the longest hat sits ever recorded are Minerva McGonagall and Flitwick.
Oh yeah.
Flitwick. And both of them were both considered
for Ravenclaw, Gryffindor. Yeah. That's really cool.
And it was a long hat sit. Like Minerva's especially was long.
5.5 minutes.
They had to sit there for a while. After that, they often discuss in just a minute little difference that they could have been in different positions. Like her and Flitwick have a very fun relationship. There are some good things about, there's cool things that she's done. It's just, a lot of bummer things.
I will say it's an intricate backstory, which I do appreciate.
She is set up so solidly from the beginning. I was so surprised when she is so confidently herself this whole series. It's very fun where you meet her first as her cat. Yeah. It's like very magical. Yes. It's very magical to set up the world right away, or like this person is a cat at the beginning. Yeah. And that says a lot about her too, is, what I should do? I should go sit in front of the Potter's only living relative. Yep. Everyone is celebrating. Like, no, she's literally the only one thinking about anything logical like that. Yeah. She cared for them. She understands. And even when she's talking about them and talking with Dumbledore, she questions Dumbledore, which not many people do. Yeah. They do set up a very strong relationship in her backstory, that her and Dumbledore have a strong friendship. She is fiercely loyal to him, but she questions him when others don't. Her saying like, you're going to send him a letter? Yeah. Like you're going to put a letter on a baby and be like, this is mine. We're just going to leave it on our step. Like what? like valid point, ma'am. Yes. Yes. And her emotions. She's also so fully confident in herself. Like she is holding back tears. And then when she finally sees Harry, like, and has to leave him, like is fully crying over it. Whereas everyone in the world right now is celebrating that this boy has saved their lives. Yeah. And she is fully understanding what they're doing to him. Yeah. And hates it. Yeah. Well, not fully from what Dumbledore's side, but what they leaving him there with no family. Yeah. With people he's never met. Yeah. Like
stoic. It's the wrong word, because she is emotional in a way that is really wonderful in this book, but it takes a lot to shake her. Maybe it's she's unshakable person who,
I would agree with that, hands down.
When she explodes, it's for very good cause, and it's very powerful. In any emotion that she like lets out is strong and earned and and fascinating, which we see a lot of times in the book, which is great.
Yeah. She is not afraid to speak her mind. She's very strict and clever. Something very interesting about her too is you meet her twice when she is introduced, because you meet her from an outside perspective at the beginning of the book, and then you meet her from Harry's point of view at the school, which is so fun because you almost get a sneak peek. You get to see who she is before you meet her, so that when Harry jumps in and goes, ooh, she's strict, she's clever, she holds everybody to this higher standard, like Gryffindors to a higher standard. She doesn't take favor of them. So they see that, but we got to see her break down over having to leave Harry. Yeah. That was so cool for us to get those two tastes of her right away. Yeah. She's very thoughtful and caring, but business first. Yes. If that makes sense. Yeah. It's so funny. And her love for Quidditch, you can just like go on a small rant about that all by itself. Yeah. Cracks me up.
I adore anytime Quidditch is brought up in every single book. Like the fact that because she's seen as a strict head of house, and then as soon as Harry shows prowess with the broom, immediately goes, I found you a seeker. Like, you're not in trouble. I found you. Like, there's so many things with Quidditch in this that are brilliant, that she just kind of breaks away from rules sometimes and cares so much about it. Sorry if this is jumping, but there's one specific...
No. Let's do the Quidditch stuff. I want to talk about that right now because she cracks me up. I love her stuff with Snape. Her banter with Snape constantly is so funny.
Adore.
She does it a lot in the books.
Yeah, I adore it. And I think it's in her backstory that she lost to Slytherin. Like that's when she got injured, was against Slytherin, I think. So they build in this rivalry, and it's very specific. She gives the firebolt back in book 3 because she's taking it to make sure that it's not jinxed, which is not in the movies.
They strip it down and bring it back. Yeah.
She brings it back the day after it's mentioned that Snape taunts her about the game. So she very specifically is all of a sudden done with it in time for the game after being taunted by Snape. And I think that's so cool. I love it.
And those two have such an interesting relationship because they're always with the Quidditch. They have this like banter with each other constantly about Quidditch, almost playful competitiveness, petty competitiveness that they have with each other all the time about it. Yeah. With Quidditch too, I think it's really important that she is not in the movies, but in the books, she is the one to tell Harry that your father would have been proud.
Yes.
Because she's the one who reveals to him that James played Quidditch as well.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about this with Luna, so I'll just touch on it. But McGonagall's journey with the commentators of Quidditch is hysterical in the books.
Yes. Oh, God.
Trying to get Lee Jordan under control.
I'm so bummed that wasn't in the movie. Like her and Lee, the banter with Minerva for that was amazing. You're telling me that she didn't have like a little bit of fun?
Oh, so much fun. And like he'd every once in a while go on track or be a little, and she would keep him back. And then she has to deal with Zachariah Smith, who is trying to replace Lee, and he's just the worst at it. My favorite part, and we talked about this in the Luna episode, is when she yells in the megaphone over Luna because Luna is not talking about the game. So I'm just imagining this old teacher running to the booth and like yelling at the
no, she's sitting next to her. She always sits next to them. Yeah, she's in the commentator booth with them. Is how much she loves Quidditch. She does it with Lee. She does it with everybody.
It's so sweet that she's right there, and so she's like yelling what's happening into this megaphone, trying to keep the thing on track. So yeah, her relationship with the commentators is really wonderful. Her competitiveness with Snape, also because Snape was a student of hers, so there's also it's an interesting relationship teaching with a student that you've had and having that fun competitiveness with them. And it does seem like her and Snape, she trusts Snape because Dumbledore trusts Snape, and you see her trust him a lot.
Right. To segue into that a little bit of that relationship, it's very interesting because those two are always the ones first there for Dumbledore. Yep. And it makes sense. She is the second in command. Snape has other duties that he's doing with Dumbledore. Yes. So it makes sense. What interests me is they do have like the banter relationship, but also how they react differently to Dumbledore. There are a couple times where Dumbledore will give instructions to both of them. Snape always just does it. Yep. And sometimes she's like, are you making the right call right now? Yeah. She doesn't always say it to his face when she questions him, but there's moments like, for example, in book 4, when he gives instructions to all of them when at the end of the book, when they've discovered that like Moody's not Moody and all this stuff and Cedric's died and it's like chaos. And like Minerva is so concerned for Harry. And when Dumbledore's like, he needs to see this, go get Winky, go do these things. Snape just like pushed her jazz hands out.
Yep.
Doesn't question it, just does it.
Mhm.
And Minerva's like, he needs to go to the hospital wing.
Yeah.
Are you serious right now?
It seems like when she does question Dumbledore, it's very specifically over the health or the care of a student. Whereas when he's like, hey, there's a black dog somewhere, go get him and take him to my office. She just, like, doesn't question in book 3 get serious. Like, does she know that's serious?
Right. No,
is he just like, go get the black dog that's over there? Like,
she's just fine with it. And you're totally right. Yeah. She like absolutely is easily more concerned with the safety and health of students than Dumbledore is.
Yeah.
Like, like time and time again.
Yes.
Going into, and we talk about like relationships with other professors and things. She does have many jobs. She's the deputy headmistress. She's also the head of house. She does an awful lot. Dumbledore does not send out letters. That is exclusively Minerva. She is sending out all the letters. Well, that's what it is. It's all signed Minerva McGonagall.
Oh, that's right. Dumbledore. Yeah.
It is a lot of work that makes me question why, like, what are you doing? What are you doing, Dumbledore? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Because like she's orchestrating the course loads for kids. She is helping advise on what classes to take. She sends out the book lists every year. She sends out the invitations to Hogwarts, which that does not seem like a house thing.
No.
She's the one that sends out the welcome to Hogwarts. Like, why? You know, like there's a lot of things that like she specifically does. I'm like, Dumbledore, do you do anything? She's the one who like calls off all the matches if they need to be called off. She gives the big old school announcements if it's like an all school announcement, if they're not like already at the feast and Dumbledore's physically there, like in front of them.
And she teaches full time.
Yeah. She makes lists of all the students who are staying for the holidays. But I'm like, Dumbledore, what
are you doing?
What do you do? And something in book 1 that I want to mention is the missed opportunity of it becoming like a canon bit that Ron and Minerva play wizarding chess together.
That would be awesome.
Can you imagine them coming out there and they're like in the hospital wing, like figuring everything out? And Minerva's like, Hermione, how did you get past my chess match? Hermione being like, no, it was Ron.
That would be awesome.
Suddenly, like she has, Ron to play with for the rest, the years that he's there because like he beat McGonagall at chess that day.
Yeah, he did. I just love her. I don't know. Like, there's just so many things. I just wrote down so many things that she does. Something that also goes off with Quidditch in book 2 when Snape suggests Harry be suspended from Quidditch because of the Mrs. Norris.
I love that line.
Yeah.
Really, Severus? That cat wasn't hit over the head with a broomstick.
That's brilliant. Yeah, as soon as it suggests, like, maybe he should be like, absolutely not. That is ridiculous. Like, I can't. It's so good. I think what's great about her and what the students say multiple times in the series is how fair she is. And what you said earlier, her high standards that she has for them. She's just a great teacher to have because she doesn't, she has a high bar and she's fair about what you do and the punishments you get. Because she doesn't expel them after the flying car, but she does give them a punishment. Like there are consequences for what you do.
Oh, absolutely.
It's really
understandable consequences, not like when you deserve it, when you've done something wrong. Yeah. Yes. You're lucky you weren't expelled for almost killing Malfoy.
Yeah.
Like things like that. She's like very much, here we go. Yeah. But then there's other things where, I mean, like after book 2, when she does, doesn't expel them from the school, but her punishments for them are very petty, very petty. Did they deserve more? Potentially. But instead she was like, you're going to deal with Lockhart because I know you'll hate it. And you're going to clean things by hand because I know you'll hate it. Like they're harmless. Yeah. They're harmless detentions. She's just teaching them a lesson.
Adore how much she dislikes Lockhart. Her sass with Lockhart in book 2 is fantastic. When she's like, oh, you can go down to the chamber then, right, Lockhart? Fully knows there's no way he will survive. And like calls him on his BS.
Flitwick just like come together against this man.
Yes. It's fat. Like when she was doing...
and Snape, they all do.
Yeah. When they're doing that to sending Lockhart down, I'm like, you guys know like he's gonna die. Like you're just calling him on his BS and he refuses to yield. And it's just like, okay.
Good, he's out of our hair now. Like, bye.
Oh yeah, I wrote down that line. It's when he leaves, she says, that's got him out from under our feet. and then goes on with what they're going to try to do next. Oh, yeah. The sass she gets in a couple moments a lot of moments in this series is fantastic.
I did think there was something that I get it. I get that they needed Ron's wand to be damaged. I get it. But I didn't understand why, for Minerva being such a safety first person, for her to be like, oh yeah, Ron, just like that wand needs to be repaired, knowing his family, knowing they don't have the money to just like up and do that whenever they want.
Yeah.
You're telling me there's no like basic rent a wand?
Yeah, there's got to be
like a school, like emergencies happen at the school.
You know, like there's got to like a school, how you have like school instruments, you know, like these are just the school wands. Even if they're just like rented during school hours, you know, so Ron doesn't like accidentally hurt themselves, hurt someone in class, like, which would still lend to him having his own wand, because maybe he can't get into the locker when they're, you know, he can't like rent the wand for, gotta go in the Chamber of Secrets, can I borrow one? Like, you know, but that always felt off to me that she didn't do anything about it. Or actively, there wasn't even a comment of like, maybe I'll write your mother. Like, there was nothing. You were just like, get it fixed. Yeah. And it kept backfiring. And another thing that they did with this, not in this book, but in the movie of this book, that felt very out of character. And I understand that they needed to like cut things out of it and shorten it up. But instead of Binns telling them about the Chamber of Secrets, Minerva does. And I thought it was very strange. She would never,
like a weird choice.
She would never have like told them all that almost unprovoked. Like it felt like she just like spilled out all this like not real legend stuff that could make them feel in danger or could make them go do stupid things. Right. It just felt like she revealed very much for convenience, and that it was very out of character. I agree.
Something about her teaching that we get right away is, which I think is a very funny moment, is when Neville like incorrectly does a spell and the leg of his table disappears. She literally brings it back into existence before the table hits the ground.
So good.
It's like,
so good.
Like how much she's used to these students, which I think says a lot about her and her teaching. She has been teaching for like 39 years. So
in book 3, we start getting a lot of her sass towards Trelawney, which you get a lot more in the books in general than you do in the movies at all. You get her transforming as an animagus for the class for the first time in Transfiguration.
An animagus.
Animagus? Oh, that's always the beauty of reading. You never really know what they say unless you get it right. Ugh. Lord. But she transforms out of a cat for the first time in Transfiguration. No one applauds because everyone's been told horrible things in Trelawney's class. And she's really upset because no one applauds her. And I think one that's really funny because she was expecting applause and does something very specifically to get it. And then you kind of start getting to know her prejudice against divination and Trelawney. And in the series, you see her being sassier about Trelawney in general, which it rounds out her personality of something she doesn't really like.
But like, why? That doesn't make any sense to me. Why does she need that she doesn't like? Because there's other things that she has distaste for that isn't just, I hate her because she poorly predicts the future. I could see her. I totally understand her lack of wanting to deal with her when like Trelawney won't sit down at dinner. Like that kind of stuff would get very frustrating. But to like hate divination as a whole seems weird to me because like you just turned into a cat and you're saying that people predicting the future when there's an entire room in the Department of Mysteries.
Yeah. Like, are you saying that
about
that magic
like
exists?
It's real. It's a real
it's
thing.
a real magic. And for you to discredit it is odd, especially because she's a teacher who seems to support other teachers other than Gilderoy. That comes back a couple different times where she's just sassy to Trelawney in general, a little more biting to her, which is a little unfortunate. You do see her protecting Trelawney when she's getting fired, trying to comfort her and reassure her. Yeah.
Finishing up with Trelawney, I totally understand that like their personalities don't match.
Yeah.
Them not getting along, I'm fine with that. Yes. She doesn't need to get along with everybody. And she doesn't. There's definitely people that she does not take shit from. You know? Yeah. And that's awesome. But I just never understood that, just the divination aspect of it, of her just not liking divination at all, because like you just turned into a cat.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
You do get a bit in this third book of her with other adults as opposed to with her with just kids, which is kind of fun because you see her drinking an adult beverage.
Yeah.
And this is the start of her not giving a crap about what Fudge says half the time.
Yeah.
She stands up to him. here and then continues to stand up to him almost every time he's in front of her. Like and says anything about Dumbledore. She's like, but no. Yeah. And that's like a big deal because that's the Minister of Magic.
Yeah, it's not. And she worked from the Ministry, so she understands what that power is. So it's.
And is like not afraid to say things to his face. It makes me furious when she has tears over Peter Pettigrew because I'm like, no, Peter, you do not deserve Minerva's tears. You do not deserve them.
Yeah, and it does show a side of her of how much she cares about her students. Like, it just shows even someone that we find out is evil, that she cares so much about what she's been told happened to him because it was her student. Yeah, I'm so mad when I read that. I went, but he doesn't deserve you do not deserve your tears or your care.
I do love one of the final moments in book 3 of her crying harder than wood when they win the cup.
Yes. I adore that. And that's when she starts wrestling the megaphone away from Lee Jordan during that game because he's cussing, and she and then she starts telling off Malfoy over the megaphone. So she gets into it too. So that's awesome. Oh, I love that.
Yeah, that's like she is furious when he grabs the end of Harry's broomstick.
This is also
like doesn't even stop Lee from swearing. Yeah. She just starts to also get mad.
It was awesome. I also adore. This is so harsh, but deserved when Neville gets banned from Hogsmeade and given detention, and then isn't allowed to have the passwords anymore. Like has to stand outside and wait for someone to let him in because she won't let anyone give him the passwords anymore. And I'm like, sir, Black got in and attacked.
Harsh, but
a little. You just look at how sad Neville is and like, well, you can't be mad at her, but that's rough. That's a rough time.
That's rough. That is very rough. She's because once again, the safety of her house has been threatened, and she's like, absolutely not.
Oh, Neville. Yeah.
She does come back with Neville in later books, definitely, which we are coming up on soon. Mm-hmm. And her being mortified, absolutely mortified when Moody turns Malfoy into that.
Yeah.
She's a transfiguration teacher, and she's never done that to somebody. Yeah. And that's her skill.
Yeah, she has her morals and her ethics are very strict. And I'm happy that we got to see that in the movies of just her losing it when she sees, is that a student? And then brings that up Moody.
On someone who's terrifying. Like Moody is terrifying.
Yeah. Doesn't bat an eye. Scolds him.
Right. And he's supposed to look like gnarled wood, like scarred gnarled wood. And she looks into that creepy face, one of the strongest ex-Aurs of the time, and scolds him. Scolds him like a kid. Yeah.
4 is when, so we have Moody. And this is when she starts her pride for the school comes out a lot because she's very clipped toward the students and making sure they make Gryffindor look good, making sure they make Hogwarts look really good, and is a little snippier with them to make sure they present themselves.
Neville, don't tell Durmstrang that you're bad at transfiguration.
Who's going to ask Neville? I think it's going to go up to every student and be like, man, are you good at transfiguration?
What a random thing. Yeah.
It just comes out her pride of wanting to present the school as the best it can possibly be comes full force in this book.
Yes. You're right. She comes to the defense of Hogwarts a lot, especially in that meeting where she's like, no, of course, nobody could have gotten past the age line, and gets really upset when Snape doesn't immediately believe Dumbledore.
Yes, I did write down that she very specifically does not take it when Dumbledore is starting to be blamed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And once again, a beautiful moment of her priorities being in the right order. When she grabs Harry for the first task, she walks in, and the order of things that she tells him in her concerned state is that medics are on standby. Yeah. Then do your best and no one will think less of you. And then, are you all right?
Yeah.
Which makes so much sense. Yeah. She talks about the health first, then makes sure that he knows that he will not disappoint anyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then to ask if he's all right. There's surprisingly, very few characters that ask Harry if he's all right.
Yeah.
And she is one of them.
Yeah, I love that she checks in with him. I love that she tries to give dance lessons so that no one embarrasses them on the dance floor.
It's a much bigger thing in the movies.
Yes, it is. It's a minor thing in the books, but it's still...
Because she doesn't dance. Yeah. She doesn't dance at all.
She, in the books, it's described as her dancing with Ludo, once.
Right. Like, she's not a dancer. She doesn't like it.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel like Ludo dragged her onto that floor. Like, if we're being real.
Oh, of course he did. Yeah, and in the movies, she's very, which I think still works for her.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wasn't bothered by that, that she, you know, had that dance moment with like, come on, Weasley, get it together while we dance and we can show.
Yeah.
Like, that still, I think, made sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, they'll let my hair down. I'll let her hair down with her strictly tight bun.
Yeah, I love it. I love that. And then, I mean, she has to put 2 of her students underwater for the second task. That's terrifying. She has 3 Gryffindors. And
she's nervous about
in danger in the third task.
Yeah.
Or second task, in the second task.
I'm sure it was not hard to get her to talk about it in front of Dobby and everybody.
Yeah. Oh, I love that she finds the Golden Trio practicing in all sorts of rooms. So she's like, well, just use my room.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
I'm sick of it.
She's sick of finding
just use my just use my classroom.
Which is great because she also is helping in a way that she can. But the image of her just randomly finding them messing up rooms really makes me laugh.
Yes. And then we end with this like massive blow up at Fudge. Yeah. One of the many she has. To be screaming. I mean, this is the equivalent of like screaming at the president or the prime minister or, you know.
Yeah.
As a teacher.
Not even the headmistress. As the deputy headmistress. She's teacher.
She's not even in the ministry. Yeah. She has nothing on the ministry. Yeah. Nothing. And so, I mean, he deserves it.
Oh,
he deserves it completely.
Yes.
But the fact that she like trembling in fury because she is so mad at him and drowns him out when he starts trying to yell at her and she continues to speak over him. Yeah. Her having to witness the Dementor's kiss is what pulls that out of her. She's like, like this is the last straw. He's been like making her mad this whole time, but like, and that's this is it. I
just wrote in all capitals, pissed off at Minister of Magic, and then gets even more upset when he starts claiming that Harry is lying. I didn't know she could go further, and then she goes further when he starts saying
and brings up because she brings up immediately because this is another student.
Yeah,
he is making it seem like Cedric and Crouch were lunatic deaths. Yeah, and she's like, absolutely not.
Yep.
But book 5 gives us this very interesting dynamic between her and Umbridge.
Yeah, Umbridge in the midst of McGonagall is such a good combination. I adore all the scenes that they're together. It's just because Umbridge has met her match as someone who won't just fold, plays enough by the rules so she can't get her fired. Like it's I love.
Yeah, she knows how to play the game. Yeah. She's been there.
Yeah, I adore that tension. And I wish there were more scenes between them in the movies because they're just so good.
Yes. And a scene that I love with her relationship with Harry, which really solidifies how similar they are, is when she partially reads aloud the letter from Umbridge where Harry gets his first detention. And she finishes it and Harry's like, I'm going to be murdered today in McGonagall's office. Like, he's like, this is it. R.I.P. myself. And she says the have a biscuit part. Yes. And that whole scene is not very long. It's only a couple pages. But it is a beautiful cookie bickering moment is what I described as. But you see their similarity. They are both equally as stubborn. They both completely understand the situation and both have that fight and that drive to go against her. Are not mad at each other in this moment, but like having that who's going to back down first.
Yeah, it's a discussion of how to handle, and McGonagall understands how to play the game, and Harry wants to just yell about what's wrong. And it's an interesting her trying to teach him how it's not about who's right and wrong. Like, we have to survive this and find a way out of it on the other side. We can't just like confront her head on entirely publicly is not going to get you anywhere. Like, so it's her trying to instill the craft of defeat for her, which is very interesting.
Yeah, and she does throw that out the window a couple times.
That's true,
and does the same things that Harry does.
You can only take
which is
so
why
much.
They have that.
You can only take so much. So.
Right. And that's where the, take a cookie.
Yep.
No, take a cookie. Yep. I love it. I think, it's really cool. I love her fierceness, her fierce caring for him.
Yep.
That only gets stronger in this book. And she cares for a lot of people on top of all of this, like, telling off Umbridge in her own way and all these instances with her. We also get little bits just confirming how good of a teacher she is. Like when she mentions that there is no reason that everyone can't get an owl in her class. Everyone should get an OW in her class is what she says. Yes, even Neville.
Yeah.
And she says to him that there is nothing wrong with this work. It's just his lack of confidence.
I love that. Because in the last book, we get that she kind of like snaps at him about not showing Durms. And then you get that beautiful little moment with Neville. And then the next book, you get an even better one. So it's like it's a really lovely like arc with Neville. There's only a couple lines in each book, but it arcs, which is really wonderful.
Yeah. He gains her respect.
Yes.
You know, she has all those moments against Umbridge. There's a great one in the movie where she's standing on the steps and they each take a step higher and higher. That's not in the books, but in the movie, it's visually stunning that they each take steps above each other.
It's very obvious what they're portraying. And I think it helps cover the amount of stuff you don't get in the movie. Because there is a lot of more of that verbally in the book with the talk about what Harry's going to do with his career, and Umbridge butts in and she becomes so hell-bent on helping Harry become an Auror despite Umbridge.
Yes.
Because of Umbridge and all of that.
Right,
so you don't get that in the movie. So that the step up and down and the step back of Minerva when Umbridge like does the final hit is really wonderful to visually encompass everything you miss.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And she does stand by him, like you said, multiple times. She also is still she's still a Gryffindor. Sometimes she's a little petty. And she does take points for Harry not heeding her warning.
Yes. Yes. Yep.
So he already has attention, and then she's like, but also this. Yeah. It is interesting to me that if Harry would have shown her his hand, I don't think that would have continued.
Well, yeah, that's one of the most frustrating. They're all in like an angsty phase. I get that. But Minerva, after seeing how freaked out she got about Draco being transformed, I know she would have completely lost it about them physically harming the kids.
Multiple students.
And I can't imagine anyone told her, because I don't think she would have stood for it.
Oh, absolutely not.
Sometimes they can help. Sometimes teachers can help. Talk to her.
So much happens about that makes me so mad. That if I'm like, why don't you just trust her? And she trusts them. She is one of the very few adults that doesn't question Harry. Like every once in a while, she'll say things like, if you need help, let me know. Yeah. But like literally in the middle of battle, she's like, Potter, don't you have things to be doing now? Yeah. She doesn't know what he's doing. She has no idea what she's doing. She just knows that Dumbledore gave him a task and he should be doing it. Like
even when Neville goes to get her, when Harry has the vision about the snake attacking Arthur and doesn't question it, goes straight to Dumbledore with Harry. She does trust in him and what he sees. So I wish they had a little more trust in Minerva, because she could have been a wonderful ally throughout this entire series.
And I just don't understand, because she lends herself to be that. She is constantly on their side and constantly helping. And I truly don't understand why she isn't given that. Something about that moment where she goes and gets Weasley. She is dressed in a tartan bathrobe and her cookie tin is tartan. All of her wardrobe is that, because she's Scottish. Yeah. And they did remove that for the movies. Yeah. She is never in that. However, they did give her a clasp at her throat that is a traditional Scottish symbol.
Oh, that's good.
A symbol from there. So I get it, because I don't know if they were trying to like avoid clan
that's fair
patterns.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't realize it until like it was like the cookie scene and then that. And I'm like, wow, really, truly, like her whole life is this style of fabric.
Yeah. And I when I was reading the backstory and it was talking about how much she missed Scotland, I'm like, man, McGonagall yelling in a Scottish accent would be very different than what we have.
Ooh, yes.
Like that's a very different picture in my head that I've never thought about, because I always watched the movies and always saw Maggie Smith, who's brilliant.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
The idea of her yelling at the Minister of Magic in like Scottish accent or Umbridge in a Scottish accent just is magic to my brain.
Yes, that would be just scolding the students. Everything. So
then we have her by Dumbledore when Marietta is brought in and she tackles the kids to save them from Dumbledore's hex.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
She goes to defend him. I love that moment where she goes to fight for him and he says, no, they need you here.
And she listens.
Yeah.
And
They do. They do need her there.
Yeah, they do.
Mhm.
Something that is it is more powerful in the books than it is in the movies. When she is taken down by Umbridge and gang. In the movies, it's very much like, when her back was turned. Like, how dare they? In the books, they do it during OWLs.
Yeah.
These OWL people who are officially like proctoring this exam watch this too, and they're mortified.
Yeah. It's during the astronomy exam, and everyone's on the roof.
Like, they're all on the roof, and they see it. They all see it. Like, oh my gosh.
She goes to protect
and
Hagrid.
For her to be hit,
gets attacked.
By so many. Like, it says at least 4 stun spells hit her in the chest. At least. Madame Pomfrey talks about later how it's a miracle she even survived that.
Yeah, that is terrifying.
Like, so, I mean, she did go to Mungo's, and she does spend like a decent amount of time there. By the end of the book, though, there is a lovely moment where she immediately comes back and puts everyone in their place right away, and then continues on.
I love that as soon as she gets there with her walking stick, she orders Crabbe and Goyle to take her bags to the office. I'm like, what a power move of all people to ask to do that. You make Crabbe and Goyle do it. So I enjoyed that very much. And then gives 50 points to like everyone who was fighting against Voldemort. So it's great. It's a great way to end that.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Right in front of Snape.
Yep.
Gives him back all the points he had just taken from everybody. We stand.
We do. Very much so.
But we do get right in book 6 at the beginning, her moment with Neville.
Yeah.
Kind of standing up to Gran a little bit and saying you should play to your strengths. Yeah. And it's cool that his charms, OWL, was so high, and exciting that she did that for him.
This is also the book where another one of her house gets hurt because Katie Bell gets cursed. So another Gryffindor gets horribly injured.
Poor thing. But that does lead back to something that you had mentioned before, where it's like very much supports the other teachers. Like when she gets that necklace, she's immediately like, get this to Snape.
She knows who should be doing the things. Like she's not trying to fix everything.
Yes.
She knows who's best at what. And she's a good general for the school.
Honestly, yes.
Which you get in book 7. We're almost there, but
you do. And later in that book, towards the end, because this book, things are really happening. This is one of the shorter books in the series. They wanted to get things going.
Yeah.
So, there's not as much development, so to speak, there. But she does go up to fight alongside everybody when the school is attacked at the end. May have mentioned this before, but they are darn lucky that Flitwick was taken out so quickly. Yeah. Because Flitwick and Minerva together,
that would have been amazing.
The tides would have been turned way earlier.
Yeah. She scares off Alecto, who's one of the most powerful ones.
Yeah.
Like, she scares off that one.
She is truly devastated when she finds out that Dumbledore is dead.
Yeah, and that Snape killed him.
And how it happened.
She is in shock when it's revealed that Snape did it. That's a big stab in the back for someone who has stuck up for him and worked alongside him, taught him. Like that's a lot for her to process. Which
I think makes the moment, this isn't really in the books as much. It's not described really like this. But in the movies, when she stands up and attacks him and he deflects.
Yeah.
And not only deflects, but deflects and
hits
other Death Eaters.
That's such a good moment.
And leaves, and you can see it in her face. Like, I love how Maggie Smith portrays that. Because you can see her go from that struggle of this was my student, this was my trusted ally, and she gets more and more confident to attack him. This is in later movies. But book 7, movie 7, this is where her fighting side comes out, because it has to. And you see how cool and collected she is under pressure. Again and again. And we love that for her. Unfortunately, in this book, we do not get, since they do not go to Hogwarts, we only see her at the very end when they finally get to Hogwarts, not during the school year. Thank goodness she was there, because, oh my gosh, can you imagine the school without her in it and with just the Death Eaters?
Yeah.
Can you imagine if like her and Madame Pomfrey and some of these professors didn't come back?
Yeah. That's the only reason she's there. She's only there for the students, and she has to play nice with the other Death Eater teachers, because if she gets sent away, the school's in she has to play nice to be there for the students, and that is so hard because she hates them. Like she hates them. So it's
I love one of the first moments that we see her in book 7 is her running in behind, giving a brilliant answer to the Ravenclaw door.
Yep.
And Harry, this is the first time he successfully uses one of the illegal curses on somebody.
And then she uses one.
Because he spit on her.
Yeah.
He spit on her. She's shocked. She's like, oh my gosh, Harry, what did you do? And Harry, like, without even thinking, he's like he disrespected you.
Yeah.
Like, of course.
Yeah. And she just like doesn't move when he's in her like the Death Eater just in her face. And she just doesn't move, spits in it.
She just takes it.
She keeps her cool for the students. And then Harry explodes out.
And Harry.
Yep. Yeah.
Cruciatus.
Yep.
Which is not something you see in the movies. No. But that is one of the moments that I'm like, oh, look, see, you do like her.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
You do respect her.
Yes.
I wish there was more. But
yes.
Like, why you're telling Minerva sent all these kids back early, all the students who didn't like Harry early, fought to protect the school, saved her life countless times. And you're telling me that you didn't have any of your 1,000 names you named your children, not one of them was after her? Not one of them?
That annoys me.
No.
Yeah, she should have definitely gotten it.
I find that hard to believe. Sir. I think she did more for you, but whatever.
Yeah. Yes. I do. Then she uses the Imperious Curse, get their wands and ties them up and sends Harry and be like, what do you need? Why are you here?
Yep. And then just believes him.
She snaps right into like protecting mode, decides to send the students away, hatches a plan with the teachers on how to escape through the tunnel, and immediately becomes like a full-on general for an army in this.
Yeah. And I love the moment she has with Slughorn.
Yeah. Oh,
she's like, you can leave if you want. We're staying. So it's up to you. This is your decision.
I wrote down that line because I adore it. It's
say it.
It is, if any of you attempt to sabotage our resistance or take up arms against us within this castle, then Horace, we duel to kill. It's like, oh, yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I love that. I love it. It's so fierce.
Yep. Yeah,
and that does get him. It does. He's scared and he does leave, and then he comes back.
That was a nice.
Which I love that. For that moment of her being like, you need to see where your loyalties lie.
And there's not time. There's not time for me to like do anything but this. So figure your shit out.
Right. And that may have been the turning point. He may have left in fear and then thought about that and was like, you know what? She's right. Because yes, she is.
Well, and we get these beautiful snapshots of what she does to protect this school she literally forms an army from statues and suits of armor. So legitimately,
I love the added little bit in the movie where they said, I've always wanted to say that.
I love that. That's great.
I love that bit in the movie.
I adore that. And so she legitimately raises an army as the Transfiguration teacher. And then I love partway through this battle, we just see her in the fight at the head of a group of galloping desks screaming charge. Like, that is such like, it's in the midst of this horrible fight, like down the road a bit in the book. And I'm like, that's such a good snapshot. Do you just see McGonagall yelling charge with a whole bunch of desks following her? Like, it's just absolutely brilliant.
Get it, girl. Yeah. Get it.
Yep. I love it. I love that. Oh, and she doesn't send all the Slytherins to the dungeon. I hate that part of the movie so much.
I mean, I get it. I get they want the drama.
Yes,
I get they want the drama of the moment. I understand. But like,
she cared about them.
I don't know. She cared about the students. You're absolutely right. She cared about all of them. Yes, she's super upset when Miss Pansy is like, well, just like give it to him. She's like, excuse the fuck out of you. Oh, there's our F.
Yeah,
like,
also, that's the one.
You deserve it. You deserve it, Pansy. She does like them and she does care for them. She cares about them. She cares about them. So yes, I completely agree with you. She would not have done that in the dungeons, which is proven in the books because she sends them away
to safety
with the first years. Yeah.
So
gets them out of the castle and away. Yeah. A line that is not during a big moment. It's just one of the many times that they're in trouble.
Yes.
And McGonagall is like in the process of telling them like, this is your punishment or what have you. But it's definitely a quote that she lives by. She says, don't tell me what I can and can't do. I mean, yeah, girl.
Yeah. Yeah, like I don't care if you're the chosen one. I don't care if you feel like you do not tell me
the Ministry of Magic.
Yeah, you do not tell me what to do.
I don't care if you are my dearest friend at school, Dumbledore. I will question your motives.
Yeah. I love her.
Can you imagine if Minerva, because even Snape was even like a little bit aghast at like, you're raising this child to just like be killed. Can you imagine if it was Minerva that he told that to? Because she did not know any of that, and she would not have let that fly.
There's a couple things that he for sure keeps from her, very specifically because he knows what she would do with the information. She would not have stood for it because she's one of the few people who would have fought against what Dumbledore thought was right. Oh, she would have protected Harry over anything of putting him
hands down.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Which is why she wasn't let in on the Horcrux thing. She wasn't let in on something that she definitely could have helped with. So, especially with her knowledge of the school. But yeah,
I mean, she did know about the order and everything.
She stopped in at Grimmauld Place a couple of times, and
she was she did the meetings and everything. But like, and they were discussing it. But he can't. Yeah. And later on, she is still around for the events of the Cursed Child. She actually reverse in the first time she writes to the Ministry about a time turner. She is writing on behalf of Hermione Granger. And in the second one, she is writing angrily to Hermione Granger.
Oh, interesting.
Because Hermione Granger allowed a time turner out, and she's like, what are you doing? Did you not learn from last time?
Yep.
Yeah. So she is upset that Hermione kept her confiscated time turner.
Interesting. I do like that she's
Which
still
is
the
another
head
one of those things where it's like, ugh.
Yeah. I do like that continues through for the Cursed Child. And we get her dueling with Voldemort at the end, like I said earlier, with Slughorn and Kingsley, which is really cool that she's the one who is facing with other people because it's Voldemort.
Yeah, of course.
But that's a really wonderful, powerful thing for her to be a part of. And she survives, becomes a wonderful headmistress.
And what a cool moment for her to be in one moment. And this did not take place over a long time. This was like maybe an hour or so. Like a couple hours. Like this was long. So for her in one moment to be screaming in Slughorn's face of like, where do your loyalties lie? To then be fighting alongside him. And for him to be standing there. I mean, Kingsley, get it, sir.
Yes.
Like, he's a baddie. Yeah. We love him. But for him to be standing against Voldemort as well next to her and to say that she had nothing to do with that. Like, she...
Yeah, not only did Slughorn
definitely helped
back in, but he was fighting Voldemort for sure death. Like, he totally would have died. Like, it's just... Yeah, like, that's a big deal.
That was huge. And not that I'm sure he's an accomplished wizard, but definitely...
He's a potions guy, though. He's not like he's a duelist.
Yeah, we don't know anything about that side of him. So like, oh my gosh. Yeah, she definitely, when she has the patience for the person, and sometimes when she just yells at them, she definitely can tell people's strengths and weaknesses and can bring that out of them, whether it be kindly or by force.
No, she knows how to inspire the right way in the right moment for people. And she has a lot of good tactics. She has a lot of different tactics at different times, and it's amazing. She's a fantastic role model and teacher in this series, and I'm so happy that Maggie Smith got to play her because even though she's not Scottish, I think she captured her so well.
She did it amazing, and which says so much about Maggie Smith just as herself. She had cancer during the filming of some of these movies and would not halt production. She continued to act through that, which I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What
a McGonagall thing to do.
The dedication.
Like what?
Yes.
She was the perfect choice. She pushed through her own pain to make sure that she got to capture this character, and it's incredible. She's incredible. Yeah. McGonagall is absolutely incredible, and I was so happy that we got to talk about her today. It's such a different, being able to talk about the sisters and then McGonagall is such a different switch. Yes. But it's a fun discussion even with the sisters, figuring out the trauma, because it's a lot more of a discussion about what happened in their past influencing what happened to Harry and to Petunia and who she turned out to be, because we don't get to see who Lily turned out to be. Right. So it's an interesting study. Right. It's a good group of ladies to talk about.
Oh yeah, and to tie them all together, I leave you with the final headcanon.
Yes.
So Minerva obviously turns into a cat. There's also, it's not directly related to her, just the cat.
Yes.
Think of the cats here. And the Potters did have a cat as well. There is a strong headcanon that the cat is Crookshanks.
No.
Headcanon, but still.
I adore that. Because, they said Crookshanks was
cat,
just in the shop for years.
Has been there for years. They don't know. Yeah, they don't know where he came from. They don't know.
I love that.
He looks ancient because he's so just like frazzled looking.
That is now truth to me. That is truth to me. I love that. I adore that headcanon.
And why he immediately liked Sirius?
I love it.
Is that crazy?
I love that headcanon. Oh.
Anyway, thank you guys for listening, and we will see you next time.
Yes. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Damsels in Dialogue. Tune in next week as we sort through and discuss the women of the Longbottom family and the infamous Black family.
If you enjoyed listening today, we'd love to have you subscribe to this podcast and share with friends.
If you really enjoyed our discussion, you can find more behind-the-scenes content, a peek at our research notes, and even entire bonus episodes on Patreon. Each month, we release a full after-hours episode where we will discuss movie adaptations and don't hold back.
You can reach us on social media. Links to all our platforms can be found in our About section. Until next time, this has been Damsels in Dialogue.
Have a nice day.
And fuck TERFs.
This podcast episode is sponsored by Ryan Orion, who makes lovely wands. You can find them at ryanorion.square.site/ and is produced by Hello Out There Audio, part of Hello Out There Productions.